Good afternoon. Here we are in New York, together with Minister Kuleba, 1 year after Russia started the invasion of Ukraine. And we know what have happened during this year. A lot of sufferance for the Ukrainian people, thousands of people being killed, civil infrastructure destroyed, Russia bombing every day in order to curb the resistance of the Ukrainian people. This war has been sending shockwaves around the world, creating troubles to everybody. The whole world is paying a high price for this war in terms of prices of electricity and food and a looming economic crisis due to this fact. So I hope that the United Nations will support this resolution, that Ukraine has asked the European Union to lead in a transparent and inclusive way in order to have on board everybody who wants to support the principles of the United Nations. Because this is not about Ukraine alone. It's about the world in which we want to live. This is about the right of the people to live freely and peacefully on an independent, sovereign country with their borders being recognized by the international community. This is about to say to the invader, the aggressor, that he cannot use the law of force in order to impose its will. And that's why this resolution is about a call to the international community that should be echoed in the Kremlin in order to understand that they are losing this war militarily, they are losing this war morally and politically, and the world have to ask to stop it and look for a peace, a just and sustainable peace, grounded in the principles of the United Nations. Nothing more, but nothing less than that. And I hope that tomorrow, today, when we discuss about this resolution and when the international community will vote, will support looking for the peace, will reject the invasion, will ask for the respect and fulfillment of the United Nations Charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Josep. Dear media, I was here in New York almost exactly a year ago, standing in front of the cameras. Maybe some of you were there at that time. And we were 2 days before the war started. I remember every hour of my presence in the United Nations at that time, and I was still appealing to the United Nations, to every member state, to do everything possible to prevent the war. And very few believed that Ukraine would actually survive should the war begin. And here we are, a year after, alive and kicking, as President Zelensky once said. And what has become more than obvious in this last 12 months is that this war is not only about Ukraine itself. It's about a very fundamental thing. It's about the principle of the territorial integrity enshrined in the United Nations Charter. It is the war against impunity. And this is why it is so critical for Ukraine and its friends, and the European Union is definitely one of the staunchest supporters and friends of Ukraine in this struggle. That's why it is so important for us to prevail. Because if we don't, which is not going to happen, but if we don't, the message to the world will be completely wrong. The message will be that you can do whatever you want and get away with it. And this is not what member states are interested in. So I came here to New York this week to work together with colleagues on the adoption of the UN General Assembly resolution about defending UN Charter and restoring peace in Ukraine. And we spent hours here talking with various countries who have various positions. But we should all be united with one goal: to defend what this organization stands for and what the United Nations Charter is based on. We are heading into the session hall to take part in the General Assembly meeting. It's always, nothing is guaranteed. But what is clear is that the choice is clear. You either stand by UN Charter or you stand by those who violate it. And there is nothing in between. Thank you.
Do you think you will get the same support as last year? Do you think the international community as united, let's say, against Russian opposition as last year? How confident are you to get a wide support?
I think the coalition will be still impressive. I cannot guarantee the exact number now. But the main thing is really, this is a test for many countries to take the side. And as I said, it's not about taking the side of Ukraine. It's either you take the side of international law, represented by the UN Charter, or you take the side of Russia who violates it. It's very, very simple. You can never predict the final outcome until the vote takes place. But in principle, we feel that the coalition is there.
What is the impact? It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. What is the impact of a GA resolution, even with strong support, since it's not enforceable?
The impact is very clear. It sets the perception. It shows who stands where. And if resolutions had no impact, Russia would not be fiercely fighting against them. This is politics. This is how it's being made. I think this lady deserves a mic.
Recently, President Zelensky said if China gets involved in this war and aids Russia, we're heading towards World War III. Well, it seems like China is eager to aid Russia more than it has right now. Are you concerned right now that we're heading towards World War III? And in that case, what does victory mean for Ukraine?
Well, I have a clear vision for Ukraine's victory even without going into World War III. It's the restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity as step one. As regards helping Russia one way or another, I want to be very clear. I know that some nations make this point that the moment you stop helping Ukraine with weapons, the war will come to an end. And when you send weapons to Ukraine, you're fueling the war. And on the other hand, some countries like North Korea, for example, or Iran, are helping Russia with weapons and claim that they have a right to do so because the other countries are helping Ukraine. But it's a hypocrisy, and a very, very simple one. Ukraine exercises its right to self-defense enshrined in the UN Charter. And when you are sending weapons to Ukraine, you are helping Ukraine to defend UN Charter. Russia violated the UN Charter by becoming an aggressor and violating and committing because they violated the border and commit atrocities. So when you are sending weapons to them, you are helping to destroy UN Charter and everything that the United Nations stand for. It's very simple. There are no two equal sides in this conflict. There is a victim of an international crime of aggression, and there is a country that committed a crime of aggression. And every country, while making its decisions, should be guided by this principle.
Foreign Minister Mark Stoney from Sky News. There are those in the West that are concerned that the Western nations are simply prolonging the war by prolonging the stalemate, and that more weapons should be given to you so that you can not just keep this war going, but bring it to an end. You're standing next to the Foreign Minister of the European Union. Do you want fighter jets? Do you want more weapons to bring this to an end? Because at the moment, it feels like a stalemate.
Yes, we want fighter jets. We want everything that we need to win. And I will dare to say that probably Josep shares this vision, because he has done personally a lot to build this consensus in the European Union on the defense security assistance to Ukraine. This brings me back to my previous answer. I mean, we need we have a right protected by the UN Charter to receive everything that we need to exercise the right to self-defense. It's very simple. This is how international law was written, and therefore everything that we need should be given to us as soon as possible.
Can I just follow up? Do you accept that the concern in the West is that if you have fighter jets, you will strike Russia? If you have fighter jets, you will strike Russia proper, and then you will create a much, much wider conflict?
We are using weapons which we receive from partners to strike Russia in the occupied territories of Ukraine.
And you can guarantee you won't strike Russia in itself?
We can guarantee that we will be using Western weapons to liberate Ukrainian territories.
Sir, you met with the top Chinese diplomat, Mr. Wang Yi. What have you talked about this current situation, and what's your thought on the potential Chinese peace plan?
We talked a lot about the principle of territorial integrity, which is common to both Ukraine and China. And again, this was a big part of our conversation. Wang Yi also shared with me some key elements of the Chinese proposal that will be put on the table within a couple of days. I know key elements, but you know, this is diplomacy. Devil hides in details, as we say. I don't know if there is such saying in China, but in Europe we have this saying, devil hides in details. So I need to see the full paper. I need to examine it. For Ukraine has its own plan, and it is supported by many countries, which is the peace formula by President Zelensky. 10 simple steps to restore peace in Ukraine and restore just peace. This will remain our top priority, but we are ready to talk with those who have ideas, other ideas which can help us achieve this goal.
Thank you, media.
Thank you, bye-bye.